Hello everyone and welcome to today's Winncom webinar. Today's topic will be addressing the security concerns on Wi-Fi networks. First, I hope that everyone is keeping healthy and taking caution as best as they can. We have had a few webinars in the last few weeks and we keep the trend going on to share favorite ideas with our audience. So my name is Kevin Mongera. I'm part of the team of engineers we call the Winncom Engineering Professionals team. Our team is made up of at least 10 engineers of varying expertise or at your disposal as a value add that Winncom offers. We do have a guest speaker today, Mr. Peter Anjala, a consultant with a lot of experience in running hospitality networks, who will share with us his expertise in addressing security concerns in hospitality Wi-Fi networks. Without further much ado, I would like to give the controls to Peter. Peter, if you can hear me, please take it away.
Very well. Thank you very much indeed, Kevin, for the warm introductions. And I also welcome all the participants in this webinar. So we'll kick off the webinar. So today we are going to focus more on the hospitality, though the same principles apply in other sectors as well. So basically, when we're talking about security, hotel IT administrators are compelled to make sure that their guests' Wi-Fi networks are only being used by the guests. Just as is the case with the majority of the hotels having a way to control access to guest amenities, like the gym, the pool, business center, complimentary breakfast buffet. So hotel wireless networks only have so much bandwidth to go around. So whether it's unauthorized access from non-guests sitting in the parking lot or staying at an adjacent property, a hacker trying to crash the network to exploit a perceived vulnerability, the hotel administrators need to be very vigilant about the security of their guest Wi-Fi network. Our agenda for today will be broken down into 7 key areas which relate to the subject matter, which is addressing the security concerns of the networks. So we look at the requirements on security. We'll also look at authentication and captive portal. We'll look at encryption. We'll look at user access. We'll also look at the firewall, client isolation, cloud access security on the CN Maestro, which is a cloud-based controller. In my next slides, I'll be looking at each one of these areas deeper to explain more. So our first topic, which is requirements on security. The questions that we need to ask ourselves when you're setting up the requirements are how to provide the safe and fast Wi-Fi to our guests. We'll also look at how to mitigate the risk of a rogue or infected device connecting to the network and spreading probably malicious software. So how to protect the admin network is also one of the areas that we look at when you're setting up the requirements. So we want to protect the admin network, that is the back of house operations, like the point of sale systems or your databases which contain personal guest information. You also need to consider how to ensure your guests and users comply to the internet usage rules. The other thing that we need to look at would be the logging of the user activities. This is for audit trail. So the second item that we'll be discussing is why it's important to have a captive portal for wireless guest access. We'll first of all define what a captive portal is. This is basically an application that is responsible for controlling and managing the access of users to your Wi-Fi networks, basically in an automated way. The captive portal is basically commonly used in open access networks for visitor access management. The captive portal allows the administrators to provide access to their internet by passing on information that allows the users to identify themselves using probably their names. They can even use their email addresses in some instances, Most hotels will also authenticate users using their vouchers. So the importance of captive portals are, it not only gives your business an identity, this ensures basically that your guest do not connect to a hacker's network. So one of the easiest ways hackers are stealing data today is by posing as a legitimate wireless network. So once one of your guests or customers associates to it, this means they log into a fake network. And the hacker has an easy way to grab their information. So the captive portal plays a very important role. So it not only protects your business, as well as it also gives you security from legal liability. When you provide a terms of service page, you basically ensure that users must agree to the terms before gaining access to the network. This way in which the captive portal works is the AP redirects any web requests to a specific page until the user clicks to agree the terms and conditions. Okay, the other thing that we look at is wireless encryption. So this is basically a way of securing the wireless network with an authentication protocol. This requires a password, sometimes a network key, when a user or a device tries to connect. So if your wireless network is insecure, most of the times you'll find unauthorized users can access your network and obtain personal information. Or sometimes even use your internet connection to conduct some illegal activity. Also, your network speed or performance may decrease if people use your network without your knowledge. So when it comes to encryption, you have various types of wireless encryptions that are commonly supported on the most of these Wi-Fi enabled devices and adapters. So we look at the encryption types. We look at WEP, which translates to wired equivalent privacy. So this is an older protection method that was designed to provide a similar level of protection to wireless network traffic as is provided in a wired network. However, with the WEP, it has been shown to be fairly easy to crack. So in other words, it's easy to defeat in its security. And using a wireless network analysis tool can actually do this. So WPA is the other form of network protection that we have, which is a newer method than WEP, and it provides a higher level of encryption and authentication. So in this case, the way it works is there's a shared greeting procedure used to verify the identity. WPA2 is actually the latest version of Wi-Fi protected access, and it's standard on most devices today. So WPA2 can use two different forms of encryption. So we have AES and TKIP. So AES actually offers the stronger encryption of the two. So on to user access. This basically can be implemented by use of a role-based access control, which will basically help deny access to unauthorized users to your network, your hotel's Wi-Fi network, based on the roles that have been assigned to these individual guests. So the most basic level of this role-based access in most hotels is basically doing what we call separate networks. So you'll have a separate guest Wi-Fi network from the employee or admin Wi-Fi network. So in most instances, many hotels will, or as a best practice, will require a login to the guest Wi-Fi network using something similar to the guest's maybe last name and their room number. So for instance, a guest will usually be granted a certain set of standard permissions that are more limiting than the user's permissions of hotel staff and management. After all, we have these steps to prevent the guests from tampering their way into the restaurant's point of sale system or using RBAC and separate networks. So we also look at a firewall. So basically, the firewall is a network security device that monitors the incoming and outgoing traffic, and it will decide whether to allow or to block a specific traffic based on the rules that have been defined on the firewall itself. So having a firewall in your network is very key, because this will help you to eliminate the need for requiring someone to periodically check every flow or every building to find probably rogue access points. So our firewall continuously will proactively watch for rogue traffic, and it will definitely automatically disconnect any that is deemed to be rogue or new APs. So when it comes to a secure Wi-Fi network, from a guest point of view, what is critical is to basically ensure that the Wi-Fi signal is encrypted, and that features like client isolation. Actually, client isolation is a feature that prevents wireless clients from communicating with one another. This feature should be enabled on the wireless LAN. The guest might be transacting their personal, professional, probably financial information online. And for you to ensure that the guest information is not easily hacked as an IT admin perspective, there's the relative peace of mind if you know there's a client isolation enabled in the wireless LAN network. And this means that if two computers or devices are connected on the network, they cannot share files with each other. In this way, the client isolation will ensure that your network users are protected against malicious people who want to probably steal data. That concludes my bit of the presentation. I'll now hand it over back to my colleague to take us through the next segment of the presentation.
Thank you, Peter, for the good presentation. I'll take it over to talk about cloud access security on CN Maestro in a moment. So I'll talk about cloud access security on CN Maestro, and basically we have CN Pilot, which is a portfolio of Wi-Fi equipment from Cambium, while CN Maestro is a network management system for the CN Pilot devices. And this NMS can either sit on the cloud or it can be on the premises. So if either it's on cloud or on premises, the network manager should work to deliver a secure, scalable Wi-Fi connection for all your applications, be it enterprise, hospitality, education, or public Wi-Fi deployment. And CN Maestro is specialized to ensure reliable, secure management of all Cambium network products. Cambium network products. We have Cambium network products in point-to-point, in switching, in point-to-multipoint, as well as in IoT. We look at the multiple facets of and best practices for CN Pilot security capabilities. So we need, first of all, to secure the connection between the access point and the NMS. How do you do that? So there are three things you can do, and actually there are more than 6 things that you can do, but I'll talk about at least 3 of them. So we have secure cloud-based device onboarding, where we have the data connection between the CN Pilot solutions and the CN Maestro has to be secured using SSL, is HTTPS for privacy and authentication. And also the CN Pilot access point validates the certificate from the CN Maestro to ensure protection from spoofing attacks. And in addition to that, all connections from the AP are initiated towards CN Maestro over standard web ports and protocols. By doing this, you ensure that there's seamless connectivity without the need to modify firewalls and open ports. Opening ports provide another avenue for attackers to get into your network. Again, during onboarding to a CN Maestro account, the CN Pilot APs basically you either use a Cambium ID and a password that has been pre-configured by the administrator, or also present randomized serial numbers at work to prevent a brute force attack. So the other way is individual access point level admin protection. You can have also ACL mark blacklist, you can do whitelist and blacklist. This works radius-based authentication. So after securing the connection between the access point and the NMS, you need to secure the access point itself. How do you do this? You know that the access point stores sensitive information such as configuration files that contains passwords, shared radius secrets, etc. All of these are encrypted in the AP's configuration file. And this encryption, sorry, excuse me, ensures that anyone other than the administrator who might view the configuration overview or who is given temporary access to the system will not be able to view the sensitive parameters or gain unauthorized access to the data. As well, in addition, the access point firmware is signed using a Cambium Networks certificate. And when firmware on the device needs to be updated, the signature of the new image must be validated. So this will prevent people from loading malicious firmware to the access points. In addition to that, the configuration interfaces of the access points such as CLI and the GUI have been hardened with careful scrutiny and sanitization of all inputs to prevent malicious attacks. Moreover, the pilot access points support secure interfaces for configuration and monitoring. And for configuration, we have HTTPS for the GUI and SSH for the CLI. For monitoring, we support V3 for SNMP. While we still support the traditional interfaces such as Telnet and SNMP version 1, these are available if desired, but can be disabled so that the device can be set up to be managed only over secure connections that provide data privacy and confidentiality. In addition to that, the AP has a built-in basic file that you can configure some rules for restricting access to certain sites, to certain devices. Then there's a capability, they have the capability of automatic encryption of stored passwords and sensitive data. And then as I mentioned before, we have security for the administrative interfaces and validated signed access point firmware. After securing the access point itself, now you need to secure the clients who are connecting to those access points. So the access point basically bridges traffic from wireless clients to the wired network. And there are multiple stages along this path where security is an important concern. We know that traffic over there can be intercepted by packet capture tools run by users in the vicinity of the network, but that can be configured, that can be prevented by configuring the wireless LAN with WPA2 security, which uses an AES CCM-based encryption. In this kind of encryption, per session encryption keys are derived between the AP and the wireless client based on either pre-share security keys or radius 802.1x authentication. And this will encrypt all traffic on there, both to and from the AP. The use of WPA2, as Peter mentioned earlier before, is recommended, but WPA2 Enterprise is preferred because it provides strong mutual authentication in addition to the encryption. In addition, the pilot access point also support the IEEE 802.11w standard. This is a standard that specifies mechanisms to protect the management frames. While WPA2, we know encryption provides privacy and authentication for the data traffic, you still need 802.11w to provide security for the management frames. So while we have WPA2 providing privacy authentication for the data traffic, it still leaves the client connection susceptible to attacks that can cause disconnects and denial of service. 802.11w provides this kind of protection to the connection. This algorithm, AES-CCM, is basically advanced encryption standard with the CCM mode. CCM mode is counter with cipher blockchain message authentication code. This is a mode of operation for cryptographic block ciphers. And it's an authenticated encryption algorithm, which is designed to provide authentication and confidentiality. And depending on the level of AES encryption that you've applied, the AES coupled with CCM can either be 128 bits or 256 bits, which is a very high level of encryption. Then after securing the client security, then you need to secure the access back to the wired network. So in addition to securing traffic, it's also important to ensure that traffic is bridged out in appropriately to the wired network side. And our CN parallel devices support this kind of security by providing the capability of mapping of VLAN to each particular wireless LAN. And user traffic is only bridged out to the appropriate VLAN. So if you have the accounting department wireless network and the engineering department wireless network, these two networks can be of the same be on the same access point, but running separately. If, for example, you have your accounting department on VLAN 10 and engineering department on VLAN 100, they can all access Wi-Fi from the same Wi-Fi device, but the communication between the two departments is segregated between the two VLANs. So this ensures separation of traffic on both wired and wireless sides. And this also allows you to have separation between guest network and corporate networks together on the same AP. We have support up to 16 SSIDs, and these 16 SSIDs can be mapped to separate VLANs, so you can run up to 16 networks independent of each other on a CN pilot device. And that marks the end of our session today. We thank you for attending, and we'll be hosting another session in coming days. If there are any questions that you wish to ask, you could ask them now. We'll respond to them in the next few minutes, or if we don't manage to respond to all of them, we'll be able to reach individually out. We'll be able to reach out individually to each one of you. So Peter, are there any questions?
I can't see any questions so far. So probably anybody who has any questions, they can email them to us, or probably you can chat. Right now we'll leave the room open for a few more minutes. If there are no questions, then we can end the session. Hello, Kevin. You're there?
I think there are no questions coming in. I think we can end the webinar now. Thank you everyone for taking your time to attend today's webinar. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.